All right, we have a very special guest on the show today, former NFL and CFL offensive lineman Garrick Jones. He now dedicates his life to advocating for athletes through his businesses and his very own football league. Garrick, thank you so much for coming on the Fumble with us today.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate the opportunity
Yeah.
platform. Yeah.
Garrick, what up, cousin, man? The beard is looking splendid, my brother. I don't know what you got going on. I don't know who your barber is, but he is holding you down.
I
Trust.
appreciate it. I appreciate it, man. Plenty of life in this beard, man. Yeah.
Let me ask you, when you just got the beard, right? Because you ain't got nothing up top. How much that haircut costs? What do we?
Man, listen,
Is it
I do
full
this,
price?
man. We cost cut over here, man. I've been cutting my hair.
You know what?
Yeah, since I was 11 years old, doc.
We aligned, brother. We are aligned. I'm excited for this conversation, man. So happy to have you here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it.
All right, Garrick, let's start with NIL. Last week, we talked a little bit about the Clemson football team and Dabo Swinney maybe not embracing NIL like some of the other coaches across the NCAA. What do you make of his approach to NIL? And he says that it's in God's name, image, and likeness.
I got you. Well, I think evolution in the game is inevitable. It's just like any other change. I mean, either you're going to adapt or you're going to die. So at the end of the day, with the way that it's going, I mean, if you can fuse your coaching style and how you look at things with the new ways of the movements, man, it really helps. Because I was pre-NIL, so at the end of the day, when we came in, it was one of those things where you kind of was really stuck in that position. But nowadays, these athletes are understanding the power that they have in their names. And what they can do with that. So you kind of got to adjust that coaching style and your philosophies to that in order to put together the best team. Otherwise, you'll fall by the wayside.
Yeah. So Garrick, in the past, you've made comments that you want to change the DNA of what franchise ownership looks like, right? More representation, of course, of people who look like the bloodline of the sports that are generating so much money. And you were in the process of landing an expansion WNBA team in 2023. Why did you want to be invested in the business of the W, and what happened in your bid to acquire the team?
Well, I think just the changing of the DNA of professional sports and ownership. I mean, it's one of those things where if you get athletes in the mix in some way, shape, form, or fashion, that competitiveness, it rubs off on everybody in the building. And definitely if you're in a business mindset, you get a chance to apply that to what you're doing in that ownership situation. But in regards to the WNBA, we saw it a long time ago that the uptick in popularity and also just the way of the world and the way the sport is going and where it's headed, man, with what's happening now. We wanted to be on the front end of that. We're still in the process, and at the same time, they're making their moves and figuring out what they want to do. But ultimately, what we want to bring to the table is an all-inclusive environment, being able to bring economic development in the area that we're looking in, which is Nashville, Tennessee. And from there, being able to have the people into it and just develop the people around it, in the sport in itself, and just give it new life, because it's really going in a very good direction. The valuation of it is tremendous at this point. It's only going to get better. So we want to be a part of that whole movement and just bring the right people to the table.
Yeah, that's crazy. I actually live in Nashville.
There we go. There we go. It's a great environment. I think
All
that
right.
the WNBA really wants Nashville,
Yes.
and we get a chance to be, I think, the template for other organizations that would come in that didn't necessarily have a symbiotic relationship with a well-known NBA team in the city itself. So we want to put the template together and bring all the ancillary revenue generators to the table to be able to show other organizations and other groups how to do this thing and be at the forefront of the movement.
I'm sure you got to peek into the books a little bit, right? So do you feel like Caitlin and Angel have sped up the WNBA's ability to operate in the black? Like, you think their arrival has, moved the timeline up a little bit?
Oh yeah. You absolutely, it fast tracked it, and that's kind of one of the things that we looked at, because we really got hot and heavy last year in September, in reference to what we were looking to do, and we wanted to bring a lot of different environments together in order to make sure that it was a sustained movement. Sports and entertainment districts, being able to have that particular organization that we want to bring to the table, be the staple of that, and be able to surround it with other sports, but the way they came in like gangbusters, man, from March Madness to the draft and everything that they're doing now, man, it's the popularity of it And like I said, it's on an incline. You know, I think the ascension of it is tremendous, and definitely the valuations of these teams, and to be able to even look at an organization now, it's on the rise. So we just want to be a part of the movement and add value. But they definitely are doing their thing, and I'm proud of them both, and I'm proud of that entire draft class and all the young ladies that are part of the WNBA right now.
I want to learn more about that because we have had so many conversations just about ownership in our community,
Absolutely.
or just ownership in general.
Right.
There are so many athletes who have a lot of money, so many entertainers who have a lot of money, and now I'm trying to understand: is there ever going to be a scenario in which these athletes pool their money together for the opportunity to create their own leagues and kind of, leave the NBA and the NFL and create parallel leagues? Is that something that you see is possible within the next 20 to 30 years?
Oh, absolutely, it's possible, but it has to be I think every movement needs a sacrificial lamb, so to speak. When it comes down to it, think about the ownership structures. Like right now, you hear about a lot of minority owners in a lot of different leagues, and that's fine and that's good. Don't get me wrong. To be able to step in that arena and hold your own and be a part of those things is really good. But it's the majority ownership that being able to say, okay, I'm calling the shots, and we're putting things in play, and we're bringing the right people up, and really creating that environment, right, that where the athletes have a little more say, the fans will be able to come in and do some things, and it's about innovation, and it's about forward thinking, and it's about having the opportunity to be in that position. One of the things that I learned really quickly, when I got to the league, from my vantage point of the way I made it to the NFL, from the trunk of my car without a senior season, chasing scouts from Little Rock to LA, from LA back to Mobile, Alabama, to the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
I learned that, all right, it's the business is a wild deal, right? It's a wonderful sport, but the business itself is just that. It's cutthroat. It's one of those things where once you get a chance to get in, the only way you're going to be able to change that DNA is from the inside. But the individuals that play the game have to see somebody that's cut from that same cloth, and then from there be able to say, okay, where's the safe space? Because when you have athletes, man, I mean, we're pushed through a system, unfortunately, and every level we go to, a target it gets bigger and bigger and bigger because it was on our back when we were younger. And now you got all these people that have looked at taking advantage of athletes because we're thinking about X's and O's and thinking about keeping our jobs. So we're not really looking at or come from well-to-do backgrounds when it comes to financial literacy and business. So what we're creating is a safe space for athletes to be able to come in and learn and be able to implement. Because, like I say, anything's possible, but it's about those actionable items. And that's a part of the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing in this sports space, sports acquisitions, real estate, and really just opening the door and being able to say, hey, optically, I come from the same spots that you do, but now here's the way.
Yeah, I really commend you for that because I wanted to ask you what compelled you to kind of get into that realm. We fought for NIL for these players,
Right.
financial stability while they're in college, but then there's more that comes with that. Like you just said, the literacy of it. Like I said, what kind of compelled you to kind of get into that, and why is that so important for today's athlete?
I think for me, it just was my journey. I really look at this as a part of my purpose and my calling. Just the way I made it to the NFL, the things I had to go through in Division One, being pre NIL, and that being a major part of why why I left school. Right, it was the things I was while I was looking at leaving at home. I was looking at doing those things because I couldn't make any money. Right, I was at school year round, all those different things. So I mean, with each level comes a different devil. If we're gonna be real about it. And as you move and you start to navigate, you look at there's not a real true succession plan for the athletes. I'm in the family office space right now, and I've been there for about the last 7 to 8 years and learning, from these high net worth individuals, how to set up your trust and how to set up a succession plan for your families. Once I got a chance to get in there, I said, well, this is exactly what's going on with the NFL owners, the owners of these NBA clubs. They want to pass this down to their families. But unfortunately for the athletes, we don't have a succession plan. It's next man up. Good luck to you. We paid you well. So thank you. Right. And it's not really a fair shake because of the fact of how we came in. Of course, we got paid well, but if you look at the books, we're not getting paid what we're worth. Right. That was one of the things I really learned when I first got into the NFL. I'd look at guys, and a lot of this is back when we had paper checks. A lot of the vets would be like, hey, pick that up for me, Rook, after they drop the check. got a chance to check out all those zeros. But then I started looking at the different people that were in the building, and then these owners were paying us with a smile on their face. So I was like, this math isn't mathing. Because if I had to pay everybody, I'll probably be, I'm gonna be a little fidgety, right? But once I really got into it and started looking at the monies that are generated and figuring out there's a reason why for the athletes that's made public and not so much for the owners, that's kind of a private scenario. Now you get a chance to see it's better to be a check writer instead of a check chaser. So that's essentially what we're putting together.
So, as VP of the Houston NFLPA alumni chapter, I gotta ask you, man, because the NFLPA, I feel like they drop the ball quite often. Is there ever gonna be a scenario in which they fight for guaranteed contracts in the NFL? I don't understand the continued risk of body and wellness without having guaranteed money attached to it. What is the problem in solving this issue for the NFL athletes?
Well, I think it's an array of problems, right? And it needs solution based thought processes and conversations. At the end of the day, it's about the dollar. It's about having the opportunity to figure out how to facilitate the change we want to see. So I believe, and this is something that I believe in my heart of hearts, and it's one of those things where if we're able to figure out how to bring in other revenue models and implement that in what's already going on and add that value, it's something that could be done. But it's all about innovative thought processes and those things, and not to, down talk to owners or anything like that, because I want to be an owner, right? I want to be in a position to help the NFL when it comes down to generating more revenue, which means more revenue for the athletes, which means better environments for the fans and so on and so forth. But being able to bring ancillary revenue generators to the table, bringing the DeFi space to the table, bringing all the things that would change the game for the better, helps us say, okay, now how can we take these things that are generating extra revenue to be able to give the actual guaranteed contract scenario, hell, even the guaranteed health care after you're done. Because in the NFL, after you're done, you get 5 years, and good luck.
5 years,
right?
years.
Right. So
from your last snap.
Yeah, having gone through that, those are the things that we've done the heavy lifting and all of the different aspects of what I put together. That's the developmental league, in which that would be a true developmental situation for the actual NFL and also the referees, the coaches, the whole 9 yards that I intend to bring to the table when the time is right. But it's about solutions, man, and we can talk all day about, okay, why this and why that, but at the end of the day, it's about finding those solutions and using actionable items to get there. And that's all I'm about, man. I'm like Marshawn Lynch, man. We're about this action, boss.
All right, Garrick, earlier in the show, we were talking about the Tyreek Hill situation. Obviously, he was detained before the game Sunday against the Jaguars. What did you make once you saw the body cam video?
I think that scenario and that situation is I think it's a precursor or a marker, I'm sorry, of what today's environment is. I think a lot of times everybody wakes up on 10 when it comes down to everything that's going on in society today. It's a big topic. I think it goes both ways in reference to how that situation happened and was handled. There's a lot of different things that went down inside of that. If you really look at it and you break it down, that I believe could have been avoided on both sides, right? I think for Tyreek, his job that day was to get to work and make sure that he did his job in order to make sure that his family's good, even though he still got to do that. If he wasn't Tyreek Hill, I don't think it would have went that way, because a lot of us, we wake up fitting the description. I've been on this earth 45 years, and I fit the description each and every day, right? So we go through it, right? And it would have been a very unfortunate situation if it were not him. In reference to the officer, like I say, a lot of times the way things are set up and the way things go nowadays, it's everybody's not necessarily listening to understand. They're listening to respond. And in that way, there's no communication when it goes down. So there's got to be a level of sensitivity training across the board. That's in this system that we're in, that's in the NFL as well. How to avoid these situations. It's got to be a level of diplomacy in this thing, man, because the objective is to go home at the end of the day, and that could have very well turned into something where somebody didn't go home. And it's sad that it's like that these days. But it could have been handled very differently and a lot better on both ends. Because just to get into it, man, like I say, these are fathers, these are providers, these are individuals, who are married and whatnot, whatever the deal may be. But if they're not going to make it home, now you have this chain reaction. There's a butterfly effect. And that's what I looked at. I hope and I pray that this could be a teachable moment across the board because of the way things look nowadays. Everybody's got a camera. Everybody has an opinion. And those opinions can spiral out of control really quickly and snowball and turn into something that we don't want to see. So I'm thankful that he made it to work. I'm thankful that it didn't escalate to where it could have been, because we've seen some things happen, right? And
sure.
and those things right there, we got to eliminate them across the board. So it's going to take all of us to get together and get this thing together because, right now, man, I hated to see that. I really did.
But in that instance, who is more responsible for the escalation of the situation, right? Is it Tyreek for not rolling his window down? Is it the cop for being hyper aggressive?
Right.
Like if that was you in that situation, in that vehicle, what are you doing differently from Tyreek to hopefully not have the same kind of outcome that he had?
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to comply, right? That's what I talk to my youngsters about right now, because they're learning to drive and are at that age. It's about making it home. Right. It's about making it to where you need to be. So there's a level of compliance that has to be had. And like I say, everybody's hypersensitive at this particular point. He woke up on 10, both sides. I'll be honest with you. And it's unfortunate that it went down like that, because it could have very well been avoided, definitely from Tyreek Hill's side, and then the officer side as well, because when there's not a level of compliance, automatically we're going from 0 to 100. Right. And that's not good at all, because now the testosterone kicks in, and before you know it, it's a melee, and it's a situation where somebody couldn't come home. Somebody wouldn't come home, rather. So I'm just thankful that it didn't get to that point and be another scenario of where we're looking at a George Floyd situation on national TV again, right? We got to figure it out, man. I'm gonna be honest with you, but yeah, it could have been avoided. It could have been avoided.
And how devastating was it for you to see his teammates, Calais Campbell and Janu Smith, get detained and berated because they were really just trying to help their teammate? They're not even understanding what's going on.
Right. Yeah, that's hard to see, because as a teammate, you're in the mindset of going to war for your teammate on that field. So when you see him in that position, it's automatic. As an athlete, that's automatic, because you've been on the field with that individual. You've been in training camp with that individual. You sweat, you bled with that individual, so you're going to go help, right? And the fact that you are a ball player, you're a little bit bigger than everybody else, so it's a little intimidating, right?
A little bit,
right? Exactly,
a little bit.
You see what I'm saying? So a lot of times when you're in those positions, it's like me. I'm 6'5", 6'6" on a good day, over 300 pounds, right? If I don't really think about what I'm doing and I fly off the handle, it's a good chance I won't come home. So I have to be really thought forward in what I'm thinking about when I'm moving around. I have to be real intentional about how I move. But at that particular point, when you see your teammate on the ground like that, no, it's game time at that point for those guys. And when they're trying to get their clarity, and because all that testosterone is going around and nobody's listening, everybody's trying to respond and just, get their points across, that's never a good thing. So yeah, like I say, it has to be some training coming from the NFL in that regard, and from there, and the same thing with the police force and so on and so forth. But man, that's a hard deal to see your teammate on the ground like that, man, because you're taught to pick him up and help him,
So I want to ask you about the Canadian Football League.
Right.
I know you're trying to get into the business of the Edmonton Elks, man. Because we don't necessarily have access, or I haven't always watched Canadian football. What is the energy around the league? How does it compare to the NFL? And do you intend on having somewhat of a farming system from the CFL to help guys get into the NFL?
Oh man, the CFL was probably the best time of my life as a player. I did around 6 years or so. And it's really how I got my shot in the NFL. After I was released from Jacksonville, I went straight to Winnipeg and had a really good time there, which was my senior year. of school. If you really look at it, that was my senior season of playing the game. To me, man, just the atmosphere up there is electric. It was one of the best times that I ever had. So definitely we want to get into, from the standpoint of ownership, we want to own a lot of different teams and a lot of different leagues, right? And we want to be able to implement what we're bringing to the table from the development of the athletes, the fans, the families, all those different things. But, the financial literacy component, making sure that they're going to be good. Because up there, you don't really make a lot of money playing. But if you open your mouth and you get out there in the community, you can make a lot of money, with other things that are going on, like oil and gas. There's a lot of entrepreneurship, business, restaurant owners, things of that nature. And the people are really good, right? So it's set up to be offset somehow. But in the NFL, you're making a lot more money. It's a lot more stringent when it comes down to time requirements. And that's kind of the deal, right? It's all that. It's all NFL, and then the guys don't have much of a break. So when guys do get a break, I think that's why a lot of guys get in a lot of trouble because they've just been cooped up and it's been real regimented, right? So in the CFL, I think they only have you like 4 hours a day, and then you got the rest of the time off. So if you really don't have a lot going on, guys can get in trouble too because it's trouble to find you, right? So.
Idle times is a devil's playground.
Come on, man. But I've always been about business, man. But unfortunately, a lot of athletes aren't. So now they're playing, Madden and NCAA, and they're still in that college mind frame a lot of times. But I think the CFL is like I say, it's a really good league. We put our bid in for Edmonton. Unfortunately, we didn't make the cut. There's a lot of, they wanted to go with more of a localized ownership group, which I get completely. But we want to change that dynamic, because, a lot of American players are playing up there. So, that's got to account for some at some point, right? And then if you're bringing good business, that's the main thing, bringing that good business up there and helping the league really, really change its values and valuation. So, like I say, innovation is really scary for a lot of groups and organizations and leagues that have done things the way they've done things. But to go back to what you were saying about leagues that can actually run parallel and even compete. Oh, it's doable. Trust me. We have some things set up, in the event that they don't want to play and they don't want to, let us into the sandbox. We have some things that, we have lined up to be able to have fun and teach and put people in the best positions to be pillars of society and the community. So everything about me is solution based, man. I want to work with everybody, but at the end of the day, it's about leaving a legacy, and that's what we own, man.
You got to be careful though. You see, when people have a vested interest in the way in which they do in the NBA and NFL, they tend to squash out those who have visions that exist outside of their personal understanding, right? Absolutely. So whether you look at like an Ice Cube, I've never seen a Big Three highlight on ESPN in my life.
Nah.
I think that's a little bit weird considering the level of athletes that Cube has in the Big Three,
yes, sir.
Right? And so there's an intention behind making sure that he doesn't get but so much light,
right?
So I wish you all the best in your endeavors and navigating that space. I can't imagine having to kiss so much ass because I feel like, and listen, you can be as polished as you want to, brother. I've heard stories of what it requires to be a owner of a sports franchise, and I wish you nothing but the best because I hear you gotta be real accommodating to egos. Real accommodating.
Man, listen, egos and greed, as long as you can feed that monster, it'll grow, right? So it's kind of one of those things where you got to make sure everybody's eating the right way. But with me, man, it's chess with me, Doc. It's really calculated. It's really calculated, man. The thing about it is, yeah, man, this real estate, it is what it is, man. So I mean, at the end of the day, I think if everybody's in a position to win and the powers that be are in a position to win even more, they're gonna be all right. We'll get it figured out,
Hey, you good, man. You real good. You got politician energy. You know how to pivot. You like, I'm gonna get back on track. No way.
Absolutely, you have to, man. I mean, this is in order to change the game. You got to play it, man. And I'll tell you guys, I had a couple of individuals and a couple of groups reach out to me, and they were like, "Well, if the NFL is that bad, why would you want to go back in?" I said, "Well, the way I made it, less than 1% of all athletes make it into the NFL, and I did it without a senior season. Right? I did it. I went the long way. And this next portion is just the second act of what I've been able to do. But in actuality, man, when you get the flu and you go to the doctor, He's not going to prescribe a lotion or anything or an ointment for you to rub on in order to get better. He's going to give you a shot. So in order to change the DNA, we got to be on the inside in order to do that. So, we putting it together, man. We're putting it together.
I love that, Garrick. Thank you so much for coming on with this. I've really enjoyed this conversation with you. We learned so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, man. Anytime you guys need me, I'm here for you. I promise you. I appreciate the platform.
Bet that. We look forward to the day when you finally land that franchise, brother. We'll be rooting.